This full moon might be a time for expansion for you. This might be a time for you to pull back and see, what is my goal? What is my target? What is it that I want? How can I become the best version of myself? Pulling back. And in that pulling back, we're stretching our mental, our emotional, our physical, sometimes. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here in the room today. I am just cleansing the area with some handmade spiritual water. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your love, your support, the messages that you send me on a daily. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all of the things so that we can help as many people as possible to spread the word. Let's get right into it. What is this video going to be? Today's video is going to be a reading on the super full moon in fiery Sagittarius. Now, before we get into the energy read, I wanted to talk about like the astrology behind it and like what's going on with the planets and everything, just so you have a better grasp. So what is a supermoon? A supermoon is when the energy is like super heightened. I know it's kind of weird to like use the same word in the definition, but just stay with me. I promise it'll make sense. So the energy will be super intense. The moon represents our emotional state. It represents things underneath the surface. The moon itself is associated with water signs. So Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. This is a full moon. Full moons are times for releasing and preparing for your manifestation to come in. This is the time when the moon is seen at its fullest capacity. So the sun is shining completely on the moon, illuminating the night. If you ever talk to anyone in the medical field, specifically nurses who work night shift, they will tell you, especially if they work in like mental health spaces, people tend to get a little reckless when it comes to the full moon because our emotions are just like heightened. So think about how like anything, I'm sure you've heard the phrase like as above, so below. So anything happening in the cosmos affects us humans on the planet Earth. So because the moon is shown at its fullest capacity, our emotions are shown at their fullest capacity. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a good or a bad thing. But from our binary thinking of good versus bad, sometimes the bad can show where arguments are more likely to happen. On the good side, if you are someone who is self-aware and very introspective, this is a good time to delve into your emotions, noticing your triggers and learning, taking the time to learn from them. Now, let's talk about this Sagittarius business. Sagittarius is ruled by the planet of Jupiter, one of the ruling planets for Pisces as well. Sagittarius is all about expansion. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion. When you look at the glyph of Sagittarius, I'll put it somewhere on the screen. It's like this arrow. So think about when you're playing archery, you've got the bow, you've got the arrow, and you're pulling it back. And then when you release and let go, that arrow goes wherever your target is, right? Or wherever you've trajected it to go. I don't even know if that's a word, but so when we think about that, when we think about the planet of Jupiter, when we think about the traits of Sagittarius, about exploration, about expansion, this full moon might be a time for expansion for you. This might be a time for you to pull back and see, what is my goal? What is my target? What is it that I want? How can I become the best version of myself? Pulling back. And in that pulling back, we're stretching our mental, our emotional, our physical, sometimes our physical and our spiritual muscle of being introspective. That's a huge trait that is completely necessary for anyone who's looking to grow personally. If you're looking to, dive into your personal development, having self-awareness and the ability to look at yourself and be honest about where you're at, be honest about your emotions, be honest about what you're going through, be honest about the bullshit thoughts that you've got in your head, being honest about that. That is the biggest, most valuable trait that you can have on this journey of personal development. So with that being said, let's pray and get into what energy spirit wants us to tap into. I'm using Old Faithful Moonology Oracle to start with. Then I will move over to Mermaid Tarot, and that didn't really show that great. I'm gonna use the Mermaid Tarot and Light Seers. Oh, before I forget, another thing I want to say is full moons happen when the sun and moon are directly opposite. So it's an opposition. In astrology, what this means is lots of challenge. Now, this doesn't have to mean challenge for you specifically. How this moon affects you or doesn't affect you depends on your personal natal chart, and you'll have to look that up for yourself. But the sister sign of Sagittarius is Gemini. So looking at those traits, they have a lot in common. All sister signs have a lot in common. But when we have full moons, it's a good time to not only look at the attributes of the sign where the full moon is taking place, but also look at where the sun is, because the sun represents our ego and what we present to the world. So looking at if you have a sun sign of Gemini, being very talkative and inquisitive and trying to learn as much as possible about people. But also recognizing that some of the downsides can be being stuck in your head, being too rigid, not wanting to do things that are conducive for your expansion. Whereas with Sagittarius energy, it's more so like, let's go, let's do, let's travel. And if you've noticed so far, I haven't sped this video up. I am speaking so fast. And part of that is because I do have an appointment at 3 and I'm trying to power through. But I personally have been feeling this full moon energy since early this week. And I'm recording this on Saturday, June 11th. So I'm kind of getting out of feeling that deep, dark energy of self-discovery and self-exploration and the dark night of the soul, or whatever you want to call it, a purge, if you will. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. So look at the aspects of Gemini and the aspects of Sagittarius and see how they relate to you. Okay, let's pray. Divine, thank you so much for this time and this space that we get to share. Thank you for allowing me to be a vessel. I ask that you would mitigate my ego and that your divine will, that your divine purpose for each planet, each being on this planet will shine forward. That the messages that you have for the collective will easily flow through me, and that everyone watching this has something that they can take away. We thank you with so much love in our hearts, so much gratitude on our lips, and clarity in our minds. We say thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's start with what major themes can the collective look forward to with this full moon energy? I'm really drawn to the glyph of Sagittarius again. So a lot of times people look at the planet of Jupiter and they're like, oh, expansion, expansion, expansion. And yes, that's true. But how do I want to say this? Spirit, how do you want me to say this? Expansion sometimes hurts. When you look at the glyph of Sagittarius, it's this being pulling a arrow. And I'm really being drawn to the device that's in between, that's holding the arrow, like in between your fingers, that gets stretched. So during this time, you may see that you are personally being stretched. But rest assured, this is for your expansion. This is what will catapult you. I'm seeing like this vision of like an old style catapult from like medieval, like before medieval times, like an old time war tool, where you put the fireball or whatever, you put it in the thing and then you draw it back and then boom, right? That's what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. I'm seeing a lot of like imagery of things that have to be pulled back before they can go forward. So I feel intuitively that that's what you will be dealing with during this full moon. Now, I love these cards that we have just gotten. What do you need to release is the first card. Waning moon. The moon is currently waning, and it's currently waning in Scorpio. And here we have the new moon in Scorpio card, work through your fears. So I feel like this talks about that vision that I was seeing of like this, I can't even think of the name of it, but it's this big tool that like they would draw it back, put the weapons, the ball of fire, and then boom. I know I keep saying that, but like that's what I'm seeing. I feel like this energy here confirms that. So in the drawing back, that's, if we were to use that as a metaphor for our lives, that could be you having to scale down your spending before you experience this like financial abundance. You know, you'll probably see a lot of readings talk about like, oh, you've got all this money coming in. And I'm not talking shit. I'm not saying that those readers are wrong. But let's look a little bit beneath the surface. So before you can experience that expansion, Spirit wants to prepare you. Spirit wants to teach you lessons that you couldn't learn if you just got it all right now. And with these two cards here coming out together, this is giving me a sense of what you need to release during this full moon is your fears and working through them. Spirit, can you talk to us more about this waning moon? I feel like that's such a clear message, but I'm having trouble like getting it out in a way that I feel is like easily understood. So I hope that you pick up what I'm putting down, how like sometimes your setback is not a forever thing. Your setback is more of a drawback before you can be shot forward. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. Spirit, do you have, yep, one more card. Okay, what do you need to release? Ace of Wands, Queen of Swords in reverse, Six of Cups in reverse. This is a time for action. So you releasing your fears will help you to tap into the energy that will be conducive for your forward movement. Queen of Swords in reverse means stop being cold, stop blocking people out, stop being cold. In this card, we see like a very wintry image. So if you are, this message specifically could be for you if you are an Aquarius, Libra, or Gemini. I'm getting the sense of needing to release binary thinking. So when we have fears, and the word fear, if we turn it into like a mnemonic device or an acronym, it would be false. how does it go? False expectations affecting reality. So because of previous hurts or previous experiences, your mind takes that and runs with it. It takes it and it's like, this is the gospel truth, when that might have just been one isolated experience, right? And so if you are experiencing, you know, you have this new opportunity knocking on your door. You've been feeling this call, this pull, this nudge by spirit to do something different, to go in a different direction. But you're like, no, I've tried new things before and it doesn't work out and blah, 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 blah. If you're being rigid like that, what you need to be releasing is your resistance toward the direction that spirit wants you to go. 6 of Cups in reverse. This is can be past life or past experiences in this lifetime. So like I just said, like you focusing too much on like, oh, I've taken a step of faith, or I've taken a new opportunity before and it didn't work out, and so I'm afraid to take this new opportunity. I'm afraid to like go in this new direction because this is what happened before. And even if you aren't cognitively aware of it, this could be your body, your soul, your spirit knowing what happened in your past lives and allowing that to affect you in your current lifetime. Spirit is telling me to move on to this New Moon in Scorpio card. Spirit, how does the collective need to work through their fears at this time? How does the collective need to work through their fears at this time? I'm also being guided to read the message from the book for this card specifically before I even look at what these cards are. So New Moon in Scorpio. Oh, okay, this is a message in and of itself. I just opened this to don't let your pride get in the way. So you could be acting from this place of like bravado, I'm hearing. That's such a weird word to be hearing, but operating from like a lot of ego and a lot of like, this is the way things have always been done, and I'm comfortable here, and I don't want to move, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that. I'm not talking about a specific house move. That's just what was flowing through at the moment. But here's what the book says about New Moon in Scorpio. This card suggests a rebirth. Think of your situation as the phoenix that's rising from the ashes, as the birth, death, rebirth paradigm. That's what Scorpio energy is all about. Whatever you've been through, there's a new start ahead. There's a new start ahead. There's a new start ahead. Ace of Wands. There's a new start ahead. It may be a little dark. It almost certainly won't be rainbows and unicorns, but it will be deep and transforming. This card also suggests that if you know you are magical, then this is the time to work your magic. Witches, warlocks, light workers, mystics, work your magic for the collective and for your own personal benefit in alignment with God's divine plan. It can also herald the start of a sexier time. If you've been experiencing something of a drought, and emotional intimacy is also on the menu. Scorpio is the sign that likes to go deep into the body, mind, and spirit. So when this card comes up, there's nothing superficial about what's coming your way. Attune to the moon. Have some sexy time. Ace of Wands. Have some sexy time. Have sex. And if you're not partnered, self-pleasure is also sex. Get it how you live. Additional meanings for this card. Time to let go of a grudge you're holding. Move on from jealousy. Stop being obsessive. Could it be that you're being paranoid? Make an investment. The teaching. Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth, magic and shamans. Its energy is a little bit dark, occult, and even scary. Not all of us like to face the shadow, but Scorpio demands it. In fact, it's through working through your dark side that you can get to the light. And the new moon in Scorpio and the appearance of this card at any other time, suggests you need to do that now. I think this sentence speaks exactly to what I was talking about, the pulling back and the catapult. It's through working through your dark side, pulling back. That's the metaphor. It's working through your dark side, pulling back, scaling back, drawing back. Hermit. I'm seeing the Hermit card in my mind's eye. It's through working through your dark side that you can get to the light. Boom! And there you go. Okay, Spirit, what are these cards? 5 of Wands, the Hierophant in reverse, Ace of Cups in reverse, 6 of Swords. We've got 2 sixes here. Balance. Balance is the word of the year. Well, not the word of the year, but the theme of the year. It's about finding that balance, right? 5s are a number of opposition. 5s are a number of challenge, of transformation. And we have 2 5s here, as well as 2 6s. And I feel like the significance of the 5s and then the 6, it's like going back to go forward. This is not a time of doing things the traditional way. This is a time of allowing Spirit to breathe fresh breath. Innovative, I just heard. Breathe fresh breath into your body, into your spirit. Ace of Cups in reverse. This is not a time to get lost in the sea of your emotions. This is a time for you to be the observer. And this is a message that's been coming through for a while now. Like, this is a time for you to be the observer of your emotions. So instead of immediately responding and reacting, instead of immediately reacting, you'll want to take time so that you can properly respond, so that you are doing the least amount of harm as possible. And so that you can clearly communicate without the mirage I'm hearing of emotions like clouding your judgment and clouding the communication. Because when we communicate from a highly emotional state, 444 I'm saying right now, when we communicate from that space, people hear us and want to be defensive. So when we are with the rah-rah I just heard, when we're all up in people's face, yelling and screaming and cussing them out, now look, there's a time and a place for that. I firmly believe. I love to read a bitch. I love it. I live for it. However, this is not the time for that. This is the time for clarity and for allowing yourself to thrive in this setback energy. And recognizing that even though the circumstances around you may not look the way that you want, that this is an opportunity for you to dig further into your emotions and see where that trigger lies. 6 of Swords. Once you do this, I'm not going to say that it's smooth sailing during the trajectory process. Okay, I'm getting some physics here. It's not an easy time when you're propelling forward, because when we look at the physics of things being propelled forward, you've got gravity and you've got air that the object is pushing against, right? So as the thing, you being the thing in that catapult, as it's being propelled forward, yes, you're experiencing some highs, you're experiencing some peaks. It's like a bell curve, right? You're experiencing the peaks, but also you've got some resistance, but you are capable to get through the resistance. And 6 of Swords is God's promise to you right now that what's on the other side, once you get to the other side of that catapult, once you get to the other side of the struggle, that you will be rewarded, that there is peace, that there is love. Love is always all around, but an enhanced sense of peace, I just heard, an enhancement and fulfillment I'm hearing. Wow, this is such a powerful message. Such a powerful message. If you've been seeing stair-step numbers, I call them, so like chronological order, like 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, things like that. Ace of Wands. I love when I use different decks and the same cards come out, because it's like Spirit is like, come on, I'm showing you, get it together. There's a lot of quiet time in this reading. I've been taking a lot of time to like pause. So that in itself could be a message for you. Like needing to take that time to pause, because when we're so focused on talking and being heard, we can't hear. I'm being drawn to this saying that goes like, when you're in conflict with a loved one, you need to listen to understand, not listen to respond. So I'm also picking up on like this conflict energy. A bunch of cards have flown out. I'm just gonna read them left to right. Wow, Jesus. Ace of Wands. Twice. This spark, this fire that's been lit in your belly, go with it. Go with the flow. Go where Spirit is telling you to go. Do what Spirit is telling you to do. You already know what it is. I'm not here to tell you what that specific thing is. I'm not here to tell you, oh, this specific business idea, this specific person is who you need to be with. You already know. The Tower, that massive change, going back to the fives, massive change is coming. And with the Hierophant here, this change that's being brought about is not going to be traditional. It's not going to make sense to you or to the people around you. But this is your go-ahead. This is your permission slip. This is your green light to go that way, because this is where God is leading you. The will. This is fated. And you are divinely supported. Digging into your triggers to learn what lessons you need to learn. This is how you take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. In this card, we see this beautiful person gleaning energy from both sides. Remember, I said earlier, there's no good, there's no bad. You just take the shadow and the light side. Everything is one coin. And there's two sides of a coin. I know that's very binary thinking, but stay with me, follow me. There's two sides to everything. And so nothing is completely good and nothing is completely bad. No one is a completely good person and no one is a completely bad person. We have good moments and we have bad moments. Releasing how we think in this binary is what's going to help us during this time of setback before we get propelled forward. Eight of Cups in reverse. Do not walk away from your emotions. Do not ignore the emotions that are coming up. This is going to be a very challenging time if you are not used to tapping into your emotions. And even for some of you who are used to that, this can be a very challenging time. But you have the power to persevere through it. Hanged Man, confirming that, not leaving, staying, not walking away, looking at it from a different perspective, looking at it from a non-traditional sense. The Hierophant in reverse and the Tower, looking at things from a non-traditional sense. And if you look closely in this Tower card, we've got a bunch of butterflies, and butterflies represent transformation. Last but not least, we have, actually not last because there's a card over here. We have the Seven of Pentacles. What are you working on? What are you cultivating? What you need to be cultivating. I'm not going to tell you specifically because, like I said, you already know. You already got the tea. You already know. What you need to be working on is that spark that Spirit has given you. Work on that spark that Spirit has given you. Work through your emotions so that you could be the successful boss-ass bitch that you want to be. What's next? Ooh, 10 of Wands. Dropping those burdens and leaving those burdens in the past. Forgiving but not forgetting. Forgiving but not forgetting. Spirit, do you have anything else for the collective? This was such a beautiful reading. I love this energy. Yep, here we go. Balancing out. Justice. What is this? Jesus, I can't see. Ace of Swords in reverse and Knight of Pentacles. This is just further confirmation of what I was saying, how you need to be the observer in this moment. In this Knight of Pentacles, you see that she's looking. She's not talking. She's not up being active. She's sitting down. She's taking notes. Take notes. Ace of Swords in reverse. Not pushing yourself, your spirit team to give you the answers, give you the answers, give you the answers. It's not about getting answers. It's not about anybody telling you what to do. It's about you deciding, am I going to surrender to spirit and do what I'm being called to do? Or am I going to punk out? You got choices, but either way, you'll be redirected if you do something that's not in alignment with what you need to be doing. Either way, the scales will be balanced. Either way, you get what you deserve, and you deserve the absolute best. But are you going to be brave enough to go through the murky waters? Are you going to be brave enough to look at your triggers? Are you going to be brave enough to learn from yourself and not react to other people when they trigger you? Are you going to be brave enough to sit in the shit so that you can get that balancing out? You got some pretty awesome rewards waiting on the other side of this. And as always, you know, there's no such thing as being completely healed. There's no such thing as, you know, achieving perfection. But it's about learning tools that help you cope and get through when the waters get murky. And if you can master learning tools that help you navigate those murky waters, life is going to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be hard. Challenging, yes. We can be challenged because as we see the sun and the moon, when they're in opposition, we get that beautiful full moon active energy. But if you are brave enough to sit with yourself through the murky waters, you'll see the beauty that comes from the struggle. And I feel like that's a beautiful place to end. I love you so much. You know where to find me on Instagram or on Twitter. Only follow me on Twitter if you really with the shits, because I get a little bit more political and like snarky over there. But Instagram is where we get, you know, kind of cute for the gram. If you need anything for your altar, if you need anything for your spiritual advancement, I've got books in the shop. I've got tarot decks. I actually have, not that one, I actually have this tarot deck in the shop. If you need smoke cleansing bundles, whatever you need. If you can't find it in the shop, send me a message and I will point you to one of my sister shops that might have what you need. But until next time, I love you so much and I will see you on the next video.